Okay, so this video is going to talk about the definition of price discrimination, going to explain what it is, and a few examples of it. So this is out of chapter 11 in the book, and I normally don't do videos just to go over definitions, but since we won't be having class on this day, we decided to do a video to go over the definition. So here's a definition of price discrimination. It refers to the selling of the same good or service to different customers for different prices, and most importantly, this cannot be related to a difference in the cost of the good or the cost of servicing the customers. So this we're using the term discrimination here, which has a lot of negative connotations, but in the context that we're using it in economics, we're using it simply in the very basic element of the term to say differentiate, to treat people differently. In this case, what we mean is selling this same good to different consumers for different prices. So if there is a difference in the cost of producing a good or servicing customers, then that is not price discrimination. A price differential that's based on a difference in prices is not a price discrimination. So if you have some high, if you have to have like, if you have a store in a neighborhood where there's a lot of crime and they have a lot more, they suffer a lot more shoplifting and losses to theft, then that store might have to charge higher prices than a similar store in a neighborhood where there's less shoplifting. So there could be a difference in the prices being sold, but it's related to a difference in the cost. Or if you go to different McDonald's restaurants or different chain restaurants around the country, you might notice that they sell the same items at different prices. The different prices often are going to reflect in big differences in the cost of real estate or the cost of the wage of labor in different places. Where costs are higher, Big Macs cost more, that's not price discrimination, because again, that would be related to a cost of providing a good. So we're going to go through in the next video is going to go through the conditions under which they have to exist for price discrimination to occur, and then we'll later in the chapter go through some different examples of ways businesses might price discriminate. From a business's standpoint, they might want to price discriminate. Well, first off, they have to have control, have to have some ability to set the price. So this chapter comes after the chapter on monopoly, where we introduce the idea of a firm in a market where they have the ability to influence the price. A perfectly competitive firm is not going to be able to price discriminate because they have to take the market price as given. And so price discrimination only becomes a possibility when firms start to have some ability to control the price. And then from a firm standpoint, why would they want to price discriminate? Well, remember, profit is revenue minus cost. So if you're selling a good and you've got a given quantity of the good to sell, say 100 units of something to sell, and if you sell all 100 units for the same price, you'll get, if it's like $5 times 100, you get $500 in revenue. But if it's possible to charge different prices, to say charge $5 to some people, but charge $7 on other sales here, revenue will go up. Revenue will be higher. So it's inevitable the case that if you can charge different prices, with some being higher than the lowest price, you can have more revenue. We just said there's no difference in cost, so there's no difference in cost here. So you can increase your revenue without affecting cost. That should increase profit. So firms will want to try to price discriminate when they can, and to do so because it will increase their revenue and then also their profit. Just in terms of some examples of price discrimination, just so you get a sense of what we have in mind here, you consider like airlines. Airlines will sell the different seats on their flight for very different prices. One example of this would likely be to not be in an exit row seat or not to be in a middle seat in an airline. And so you might be able to pay a little bit less. It wouldn't be one of the premium seats that they would charge more for if you were in the middle. in the middle of a row. Uh, Another example could be thought of just the example of first class versus the rest of the coach, with airlines, because in that case there is a difference in cost. There is a difference in cost because, for instance, you get free drinks in first class, and you have larger and more comfier seats. So the seats cost more, and you're going to have fewer seats in a row across the plane. So with first class seats, you have fewer seats per space, and that means that you're taking up more space. So that in effect would be a type of cost. But then we have a very big difference in prices there between first class and coach, and that difference in price is clearly not all due to the difference in cost. So that would be a case where, even though there is some difference in cost, economists would probably want to call that price discrimination, because there's enough of a difference in the prices that can't be explained just on a difference in cost. There was a recent example from a few months ago. AMC Theaters announced the plan that they were going to charge different amounts for different seats within their theaters, especially their larger theaters, the stadium style seating, and they were going to charge more for the better seats, the seats like in the middle of the rows where you have the best view of the screen, and so the best viewing experience. And that would have been a case of price discrimination, because in effect, sort of like the cost of putting in different seats, those seats all cost the same, and you've got the same kind of service you'd have with any of those seats. So so that would have been a case of price discrimination. Now, AMC Theaters withdrew that proposal very quickly because it was met with a lot of hostility, a lot of negative reaction. And I think that is one thing you can say. I mean, people, especially those of us as customers, don't necessarily like the idea of price discrimination. It seems to us in some way unfair that some customers would have to pay more than other customers. From an economic standpoint, market transactions are voluntary. And so as long as the buyers are willing buyers in both cases, there's no problem from an economic perspective, or the logic, or the rules of the market for price discrimination to occur. If it happens to happen, and people still choose to voluntarily pay a higher price than others would, then that's still voluntary, and so that would still be okay with the rules of the market. But clearly, customers, especially customers who often have to end up paying more, might feel that it's unfair, or somehow does sort of discriminate against them, because some people have to pay more than others. But again, from an economic standpoint, there's nothing wrong with it, because it's not going to violate the basic voluntariness of the market. So that is price discrimination.